hot right down there.
Yeah, I just opened the computer.
Let's get this meeting underway. Regular council meeting, what is this? March 7th, 2022.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah. That would be.
Roll call, please, Leslie.
Mayor Laughlin.
Here.
Councilperson Sexton,
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Dean,
Here.
Goodweiler,
Here.
Stulman.
Here.
One, I need a motion to approve tonight's agenda, please.
So moved.
Nickel, second. Any comments? Let's vote then, Leslie.
Councilperson Miller,
Yes.
Goodweiler,
Yes.
Stulman, Dean,
Yes.
Sexton.
Yes.
All right. The consent agenda consists of the minutes from the previous meeting of February 22nd. A Class E liquor license for Casey's General Store on Downey Street. And the claims. Motion, please.
Move. Second.
Anybody, anything?
Claims are at the bottom after the liquor license.
Not the big font. The little font is the minutes.
Yeah.
I got mixed up.
Oh, yeah. You'll get the bill.
Lot of sand.
That had to be, there has to be a water main repair in there. There's no way we're.
Oh, from Lynch's.
$4,300 the same.
Okay, hearing nothing on the claims or anything else on the consent agenda, let's vote, please. Leslie.
Councilperson Dean,
Yes.
Sexton,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Stulman,
Yes.
Goodweiler.
Okay, presentations, communications, open forum. If anyone would like to address the council, we'd like to hear what you have to say. You folks here for that? To address the council, okay. We cannot act on what you have to say. So hearing none, we will move on. The first item is a discussion on Hoover's Hometown Days. And we have a triad of presenters who have decided to chat with us
We're here,
about,
real life.
yeah, real life. This is great. And
Out of the closet.
Becky comes out of her
We
hole.
have to prefer. Only for special occasions. I'll start us off tonight. So as you know, we have a Hoover's Hometown Days committee that meets monthly all year round and includes leaders from various organizations in our community. This group is very passionate about West Branch and specifically about how Hoover's Hometown Days can lift up our community. We have some great momentum going this year in a way that I think perhaps the committee has struggled in the past. So I think it's something to be applauded there too. But today I want you guys to think about what we're sharing, not necessarily about our specific roles. So I'm not here as the Main Street director. I am here as a resident that serves on that committee. One of the many people on our committee that have applicable skills for this festival in event coordination and public relations and fundraising and economic vitality. We really have a strong team sharing some ideas for you to take into consideration. So I guess I'm the lucky one that gets to recap how the committee has been discussing some things lately that we hope you'll take into consideration as you continue to look at why we host Hoover's Hometown Days and how the committee can best help to leverage the city's investment to make sure that we are making an event that makes sense. So I'll start by saying that there is a growing trend of cities around the world that are investing in festivals for good reason. So I will applaud our local council for keeping this celebration in the budget. I know that's not always easy to do, and taking the time to examine how this impacts our community now and how it could impact our community even more in the future if we put our cards right. So there's a few things outlined in your packet there about why the committee specifically thinks the values of this event are important to our community. But in a nutshell, when done right, festivals promote a city's brand, they increase tourism, they foster culture and community involvement, and they increase revenues, not just for the municipality, but also for our local businesses. So looking at our budget, knowing that the city has roughly $60,000 for Hoover's Hometown Days and the Hoover campus combined has about $40,000 allocated for the 2022 event, that's this summer. The committee strives to leverage these investments to maximize the benefits for the community as a whole and create a positive event experience that also leaves opportunities for future growth and improvements down the road. So Becky's going to recap some of the specific changes that you've asked us to look into, and then we'll hopefully have a healthy conversation.
So one of the things that the primary thing that we had been discussing recently is the pros and the cons for charging for wristbands. Some of the pros are on here. It is a new revenue stream. It brings some money back into the budget. We would be able to track participation numbers just based on wristband sales. If you look at the first spreadsheet, the one at the top, this is basically what we've done with an estimate for wristband sales, just for a general guess of 200 people. We've never been able to really make a count before, especially since, a lot of the times the rides are ridden multiple times by the same kids. So we're just projecting 200 bands, and if we sold those at $10 a piece, the permit cost for the park would be $618. Cost $50 for the actual wristbands themselves. We would need additional staff time. We would need to have cash, and we would have to have ticket sales. We would have to have somebody there we would be taking money in, and we would be having to have a staff member come and get that money. Would make total expenditures of $12,908. So if we made $2,000 in sales, and our donation estimate is just based on the amount of money that we got last year in donations just toward the inflatables, that would make our revenue $7,500. We put the additional staff time, that's just a base amount of money. That's not, that's somebody to work 8 hours. For total expenses, $12,908. And so that means we would have paid out $5,408. So with that being said, without wristband sales, you can go down and you can see that it would be $12,000 donation based off of 2021. We're at 6,500. So we're the amount of money that you're getting for that projection is not a big difference. The cons that we came up with, we would need additional staffing to manage it. I probably wouldn't be able to do all of that by myself down there. Usually I'm the one that is down at the Village Green. There are other people that come down and help. So we would need someone at the inflatables making sure that that everyone had a wristband. The inflatables are staffed, but not every single one of them are staffed for every. Not all of them are needed to have a person to admit them. There are some that are, without attendance. So those would have to have attendance. There is the potential to deter residents from participating, just because that is something that they haven't had to do in several years. So I personally know that when I'm sitting down there, everybody always comes up to my table and they always say, where do we get tickets? And we always say, you don't need any tickets. They're free. And it's, you guys don't get to experience that like I do. I get to sit there and everybody thinks it's a huge deal, and it's wonderful. So they love that. If people found out that we were charging, there is the possibility that they would, not necessarily be as open to doing that. It does create a barrier for low income residents. If you have, 3 kids, it's gonna end up costing you considerably more money, and you may not spend that money elsewhere. And it doesn't necessarily align with the goals of each stakeholder of Hoover's Hometown Days. That's something that we're going to discuss a little bit further in just a few minutes. So with that being said, the recommendations from the Hoover's Hometown Days Committee is that the inflatables remain free to the public for the 2022 event, and we would like to implement and heavily promote the opportunity to give a free will donation in the inflatable area. Focus on tracking participation in the inflatable area so that we have a better number to be able to project in the future. And we would like to go through a strategic planning exercise to create a mission and a vision and goals for Hoover's Hometown Days in the future. And we would like to revisit the discussion of major changes for next year. Does anybody have any questions for us or any discussion?
I'll add just to kind of help you out a little bit. Nick mentioned from the library when you guys went from $1 to a book and then you went to free will donations. How did that change?
Exponentially. We would, you guys know, we don't really charge for a lot of money for our book sale books. It's $0.25 for a paperback and $1 for a hardback. And, if you come in there and get a stack of books and it's a few bucks, but if, we put, you give us whatever you want, people would give us, instead of a couple bucks, they'd hand us a 10, or they'd hand us a 20 and say, thank you very much for this service. Thank you for doing all you do. And I don't know the exact dollar amount, but I know that it was at least, I would say it was at least double. Nick, you can chime in and tell the specifics if you like, but it was considerably more.
And that's
An average over 8 years was an increase of 580%.
the free will donation option versus buy a book.
Yep.
And go.
Right.
Give you the book and ask for a free will donation.
Yep.
Raise a lot more.
Right. A lot. Yes.
I think that also keeps it appealing to sponsors. You're not having to charge on there, and it also allows us to leverage that from a marketing standpoint in a much different way. An interesting opportunity that we have this year is that the Hoover Presidential Foundation received a $10,000 grant to market Hoover's Hometown Days. So being able to have one big free recreational activity that brings people to town over a long period of time when you can actually engage them at a time and a place and over a long period where they're likely to engage in all the rest of the event gives us a really big leg up on having this be as successful of an event as we think it can be. So that's a really big piece of the pie. And when people are looking at traveling to come to the event, if you're traveling and then you're paying to participate, you have a whole different expectation of what you're going to do here before you leave with a positive thought of the community. Whereas if you come and you're not expecting there to be so many cool free things to do, then you stay longer, you spend money, you eat and you shop and you explore and you engage with all the activities and you learn all about Hoover and you have a wonderful experience and you come back to live here or start a business here or work here or all things that are good.
Who are the stakeholders you mentioned? You're going to bring that up, right?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, I can talk
All right.
about the future a little bit.
Go
So when, as a committee, we've all kind of realized we're in silos, right? Hoover's Fest came together with Hoover's Hometown Days. And we both had different missions of what that looked like. And then we never talked about that moving forward. So we'd like to bring the 4 different stakeholders together: the city, the West Branch Community Development Group / the businesses, the Hoover campus, as well as the residents. We want to create a mission and vision for what Hoover's Hometown Days can be and should be moving forward a little bit more strategically. That way, when we're making decisions, we're not making it in a silo, we're making it thinking about what is the mission as a whole for all 4 of us. That'll be about a 4-month process. We'll come back to you, get some ideas, brainstorm, facilitate. But moving forward, we're hoping to work a little bit better together and communicate Any questions or discussion you want to talk about?
So in a nutshell, the committee has decided not, they don't want to charge for wristbands and all that stuff this year. It's just cumbersome this year for sure. Next year, if we're still thinking about it, we could, let's do a little research this Hoover Days and find out how many show up, how many we're actually serving.
You better handle how much we got in donations.
Correct. We would find that out specifically, but just I think the committee felt that just rushing into it this year. We're just rushing into it too much this year.
Just a little additional information that wasn't in your packet. Just based on the $10 price, there's only about $1,000 difference in how much we would make if we did or if we didn't. For $15, there's only about $2,000 difference. To actually break even, we would have to charge $38 a wristband.
And still hope 200 people.
Well,
still
I
have
was-
200.
and all of that's speculative because you have no idea how many kids actually even participate in it. You have no idea where your donations are gonna be if you decide to start charging. So I mean, it's all
Yeah,
speculative.
we could lose a lot of it.
You bring up a great point. I think that's why we want to think a little bit more strategically, like let's go into this one, really counting numbers and really looking at the donations and asking deeper questions so we can make decisions that are a bit more strategic for the future.
Do you think it's too late? Could we figure out a way to do a free will donations?
Yes.
Yes.
A series of, I want to say boots, but that's not the right. Throw some money in, canisters or something, coffee can, I don't know.
Well, at the end of the day, what do you really, somebody's got to guard that thing. So it's the same thing as having somebody
know,
sitting
you're
there
right.
collecting
Well,
money.
I'm
No.
normally there. I mean, I have to be there because, it's the park. And so we have to have a person there that's, in charge of the area and I'm there. The real issue is not necessarily whether we want to do that, it's how. Because a lot of the ways that people, like you say, it's not the easiest thing to do. And we are only allowed to take in money certain ways, being a municipality. We can't have the money be donated with her, what's it called? The dip jar, and then her give it to us. Like we just, with auditing and things like that, we have to find out what the allowable ways that we can do that. And obviously the safest ways that we can do that. So that's what we plan on doing right away. And we are, like I said, we're going to try to figure out a way. I mean, even if we bought the wristbands and we had people giving out as many wristbands as they could to anybody that got on a ride, and then we would know how many, we'd have a better idea of how many people would actually be there. They wouldn't have to actually pay any money, but they would be counted.
I think there's some creative ways that we could get at more free will donations.
Yeah,
If it's,
we'll come
if
up with
it's
something.
easily accessible, people will do it. I've said that every year. I can't believe- It's wonderful that it's free. That's why we're there, but I would give it a heartbeat.
We've
if
never
there's an
asked
easy way to do
free
it.
will. We never have. If we raise $2,000 that way,
If the
So
end
much
goal
easier.
is recouping $2,000 to $3,000, I think we could easily do that in fundraising or sponsor dollars if we keep it free and just improve the event overall.
Thanks, y'all.
all right, I guess, any comments, questions on this subject before we move on?
I think it's important to see that 2021, they had $5,500 in donations for the inflatables.
Yeah, it's a specific number that is asked for.
But we don't ask specifically for it. It's just people designate when they write their check, they say this is what they want it for. And that's usually about, I'd probably guess that's about an average what we get every year. we didn't have a couple of donors last year that we had before, so it could have been a little higher. A couple of banks didn't come through. But
So what are the different categories that they can put on there, or do they just?
Music,
a stage,
stages.
a stage, a musical performance, the children's activities, and I call it children's activities because there's a lot of things that we do. I mean, besides the inflatables, we have the face painters and all that stuff. And then the fireworks and I call it other general support, which covers porta potties and, you know, that kind of stuff. Some people will, and it's a lower dollar amount. If it's $100 or less, that's where that money goes, unless they specifically say, I want to give you $500 for fireworks. That's never happened. But if it did, I would let them give $500 for fireworks.
Almost.
Almost a lot
I want my name on this porta
Yeah.
potty.
Wilson Law Porter Potty.
Put your name right there.
Well, that's probably what people think of me anyway, so.
It's only good for me.
Okay, thank you guys very much.
I guess if I wanted to see anything, and I'm not disappointed in any one particular entity, I think it's all this conglomerate is that we've gotten this great big huge group of people that come to town every year. You know, especially before COVID hit, it was a big deal, you know, and it just seems like we don't really have a handle on how many people are coming. We don't really have any way of gathering information and using that information and marketing it further. It's like, come to town, enjoy, spend some money, go, you know? I don't think somewhere we're not utilizing some information that we could be getting from this event.
Well, that's one of the things is the committee that's being proposed, I think, would be tasked with.
Yeah.
Find some of the things that, not the committee would do that, but maybe that's one of the things we want to know.
And then as far as the city goes, to be honest with you, it's kind of mind numbing making these decisions for the Hoover Fest every year, especially these committees come in here and they spend all year working on planning it. And then it comes time for us to pay the bills, and then we want to start questioning them. And to me, that ticked me off if I was on a committee working and, you know, a bunch of council people wouldn't even come show up to the damn meetings, and then they want to question everything we're doing. I mean, if we're gonna turn over the money, we ought to just say, this is what we got, this is what we expect. Make it happen. And then bring us the damn bill, you know? But we set the amount of money that we're gonna put in and just let it go. Us coming in here and, well, do we really want face painters? Do we really want this? I mean, come on, guys, we didn't sign up for that. I mean, that's not why we're here, to figure out if we're gonna paint kids' faces. I mean, we got bigger problems than that.
Up to a few years ago, we didn't even know how much we spent on it. I'm not real sure that we still know exactly how much we spent on it.
But that's all I got. We keep going.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. All right, we're gonna move on. Third reading of ordinance 791. Rezoning approximately 8-acre parcel from R1 residential district to R2 residential district. Give me a motion, someone.
Good.
Second. Is that you, Jerry? Second. This is Meadows Park 5-ish. Is that right? Word reading? Yes. Any comments, questions?
Why are you rezoning that?
Your question?
Yeah, just why are you rezoning that particular area?
Probably because a builder or developer is asking for that.
Yeah, I saw down here that there's talk about a housing subdivision. So is that around the same area where they're proposing? Or is this subdivision, Sarah Park subdivision?
Nope.
I know it's.
No, this isn't the Sarah Park at all. This is,
That's why I was just
sorry.
asking, you, so it's separate.
Yeah.
that's another, whole nother section of town. This is the Meadows, part 5, proposed part 5.
On the west side of town where a lot of the new homes are going.
West side of town where most of the new homes are, all of the new homes.
Be more specific, it's going to be on Prairie View Drive where we have 2 subdivisions right now, and this piece is in between. And this subdivision will connect the 2. And both pieces are already R2 and this section is R1 in the middle. And to be cohesive, they just want to zone the whole street R2. You're welcome.
Okay. Any other comments?
Councilperson Miller,
Yes.
Sexton,
Yes.
Stulman,
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Goodweiler.
Okay, resolution 22-18, adopting the final proposed fiscal year annual budget, 2023 annual budget, and ordering a notice of hearing for March 21st. That's our next council meeting. Motion, please. I have no comments on this.
Jody had a question for me in terms of it going from 1310 to 1322. It would cost roughly $12 a year for a home of 200,000. And that's all due to the things that we talked last meeting, which was the town hall, making sure that we're not running a deficit there. There's some increase in insurance from ICAP. And then I did alluded to, we've kind of changed how somewhere along the line in 2019, we changed the way we paid for a certain water lift station debt. So I talked with you, Roger. It was too late at that point to decide what to do. So Roger and I just decided to split that between property taxes, water and sewer.
At some point we started.
Some point we'll need to re-talk about that, but it's with the 10 or the 20-day notice you gotta do for finances. By the time I found it, why it changed, we'll just need to discuss it next year, but that just means we have a little bit less in capital reserve. It didn't change the rate at all, but I was hoping to have a little bit more in our capital reserve for future projects. So,
I don't have questions. Let's vote, please. Resolution 22-18.
Councilperson Sexton,
Yes.
Goodweiler,
Yes.
Stulman,
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Okay, so next meeting, we'll have a public hearing. And then the final vote to adopt the budget.
Tom's not gonna be here next meeting, so everybody else has to show up. Me four. That's what I'm wondering.
You on Wall Street, Key West. Well, that would be
You have a drink in your
Yeah.
We can't hear, but you can down there. Okay, we have a public hearing on plans and specs of a proposed form of contract and estimate of costs for construction of the wastewater treatment facility for the city of West Branch. Is anyone here to address the plans and specifications and form of contract? Hearing none, I will. Was that you?
Yeah.
Okay, I will not close it out, so go ahead.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't have any. in particular I want to hear.
Can you, I'm sorry, can you come up to the podium and
Oh,
give us your name?
McKenna Richardson.
McKenna Richardson?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, no, I just came, I just wanted to hear the conversation that we were gonna, the estimate, the cost of that wastewater treatment facility. And, yeah, basically she showed up just to hear the acceptance of the bids and all that. So the specifications, I didn't see, I don't have anything to bring out about that. The type of contract,
I guess I would like to. I think that, type of contract are you, is this going to be
For once, I'm good.
lump sum? Or- okay. Thought so. Yeah, look over this. So, yeah, so we move on to the next,
Okay,
because I'm here for that, and then subpart E.
and say that again.
Subpart E. Well, actually, I do have some other questions about it.
Go
Now that
ahead.
I think about it.
That's what we're here for.
There was, I thought I saw that there are certain set asides included in this, in these funds for this particular project. But I'd
Set
like to know-
asides.
yeah, so I saw in the solicitation that there are some set aside contracts that are in the contract documents for this particular project. So I was wondering what those are, because the list that I saw was about, I want to say it was about 10 or so as separate set asides for women-owned businesses, disadvantaged businesses, and minority-owned businesses. And then I know there's a percentage for each of those subsections that was included in the contract. So I was just wondering how many companies do you have that are in the, like, in the scope for issuing that contract?
Council won't know that.
That would be a Dave question.
Yeah,
Dave's
Yes.
here.
So the contract is being bid under the state revolving fund. The state revolving fund does have goals. They don't have specific amounts that you have to have in there. It's not one of those things where there's a mandatory 10% or anything like that. It's just goals. So they encourage the contractors to reach out and contact MBEs, WBEs, DBEs, that sort of thing, which is what McKenna had indicated. Those are available on the plant holders list. Anybody that's interested, that information is generally distributed through Master Builders Incorporated, through the League of Cities. And that distribution goes out statewide. So anybody that wants to view that can see it. Those MBEs, DBEs, they can contact the plant holders that are the general subcontractors and express that. The general contractors are also encouraged to reach out and contact those. And there's a listing in the bid sheet that they would write down who they contacted and what percent they're going to use. Again, it's not a requirement, it's just encouraged to do that. So as we go through, they have to demonstrate that they made an effort to contact those businesses and would also indicate if they're going to use any of those as part of the work. And then through their wage reporting and the TV reporting, you put that information down as you go through the project. And at the end of the project, there's an accounting. They'll check and see what percentage of it was the businesses. That's just part of the SRF process. So
I do have an additional question.
Sure.
Some of the funds that, some of the funding that is used for the state revolving fund are federal dollars.
yes,
Right, so then with the executive order that's out, then it is a requirement
it's not
with the portion of federal dollars.
right.
If they're utilizing. federal.
So the SRF program is administered through the state, Iowa Finance Authority, and the DNR, and they have rules that are a little bit different. They do get money that funds the SRF year over year, and that's a revolving loan fund. So the state has their rules that we have to follow. Those rules and specifications.
Okay, so what you're saying is these are state dollars that under the revolving fund that are not a portion of it is from federal dollars.
Yes, but they do not require that you have.
So it's
a
a
certain
portion
percentage.
doesn't.
but every contractor is given the opportunity to investigate or ask
Well, it's one thing
and
to
seek
ask,
out, and seek out.
but the follow through is what we're concerned about. Ask. Because the solicitations go out in the email form, and I can say, hey, I emailed 20 small subcontracting companies. Whether I use them or not, it's a different story.
And there is state, there are some state things that came out recently where through some of the state funded programs that are encouraging, that are specifically encouraged to they have goals, they have metrics that they want to meet this year in certain percentages for which was that.
So
So
then,
I'm just saying, what are we doing? What can we do to encourage actually getting those contracts to those companies?
Well, I would imagine if they were the low bidder on any of those subcontracts, they would be highly favored to be the subcontractor.
Our contractor is a woman on the company. Or at least the one that they have suggested.
RW. wait,
Boomerang.
Boomerang.
Yeah, but we're talking about, there's a couple different things we're talking about. Women-owned small businesses, that's one thing. But there's also TSPs, which is targeting small businesses in the state of Iowa. And MDUs.
so this all gets sent in with the bid package to the
Yeah.
DNR. They go through and they do what's called concurrence of awards. So they'll review the information that was provided based on business that were contacted, the effort that was made, and who they plan to use. And if they agree that they need the necessary steps, the DNR will do. That isn't something that we do. It isn't something that the city does. It's something that DNR will review and they'll give us concurrence of award.
Okay, all right. I think that satisfies, satisfies me, I guess.
Well, now I got a question. So if they do their investigation and they feel somehow that somebody hasn't done what they were supposed to be doing, then do we not get funded for it? And how quickly do they do that? Do they already start moving dirt and then we figure out we ain't got a way to pay for it?
No, we won't start the project until we have concurrence of awards. So our award will be based on DNR approving the contract. And so we were hoping to get that to the end, but we haven't received award yet. So we'll make the award contingent on approval, the concurrence of award from DNR. But that'll take place in the next step. If there are some additional measures that they need to take, they may need to reach out to additional contractors, for example, and they may need to do that through that with the lump sum they've given us. So they have to make sure they comply. If they don't, then we have to go to the next step. Those are the steps.
And we're required to take the low bid.
We are required to take the low bid. There is some latitude if it's in the best interest of the city to not do that. It's not very often that you find good reason for that. But in general, there's a state law because they can take the lowest responsible bidder.
The state legislature has strictly or prohibited cities from looking at certain things about contractors. In the past, we used to be able to look at past projects, stuff like that they've done, but they got to go lobby, so you can't do any of that stuff anymore.
So I can do a quick overview of the project as part of the public hearing. If you want to run through that real quick. Under a minute.
Okay, that
All
good
right.
answer.
Wow, they're all jumped out.
So the project includes new area lagoon cell, new Sager, which is growth reactors to remove ammonia. We have some piping and structures that connect those, new system, oil buildings. We're going to remove sludge and dispose of that. We'll have a replacement aeration system in existing cells. Replace the baffle curtain in the existing cell. We'll relocate the compost. Part of the earthwork is going to be constructing a new compost site. We'll have water main running to the site, and we'll also convert the existing blower building to a storage shed. So that's the scope of the project.
Okay.
I have one question for you, Dave. Once this is all done, how many people will this serve at its max?
We're somewhere in the 5,500 to 6,000, depending upon performance of the system.
I don't know, was that many? I didn't know. it was
And then
that
we just add cells too, right? If, when we grow, we don't have to necessarily redo the whole thing. We can just put our cell on, right?
We can continue to expand this as long as we have the room to do so. We have site separation requirements that will limit us. We have to get into a situation to
Site separation, you can't do that for that. But to the east, I believe there is a restriction in the creek, so we might have to go to the other side or go south of the roadway in order to avoid that separation distance. But there is room for expansion. There's also the capability of going to the mechanical plant and using these cells as utilization. Good.
Thank you. We're still in the public hearing. Any other comments on the public? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. We're move on to resolution 22-19, accepting bids and awarding the contract for the West Branch wastewater treatment facility. Give me a motion, please.
So move.
We need to fill in a name and a,
I did leave blanks in there, so
yeah.
this would be Boomerang Corporation, the amount of $8,837,000,
Why don't you include in your motion?
subject to concurrence of the DNR. Anyway,
Use motion that.
Yeah.
okay,
What he said.
what I said.
So we have a motion to approve Boomerang Construction of $8,837,000.
I don't think I can write that.
Subject to the concurrence of the DNR.
Subject to concurrence of the DNR. I need a second, please.
Second.
Any other comments? So not, otherwise, let's vote. Leslie.
Councilperson Dean,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Stulman,
Yes.
Goodweiler,
Yes.
Sexton.
Yes.
Okay, we have another public hearing. Open a public hearing on the proposed amendment number 4 to the amended and restated West Branch Urban Renewal Plan. Is there anyone here to speak to that? This is specifically on the Meadows. What lot number?
So this is, it actually, it's lots 1, 2, and 3 of part 4A, which will be combined into one lot. It's the one project that's added with this urban renewal amendment is I call it the Dawson Plaza project. And it'll be a rebate of up to 10% of the annual TIF revenues, so maximum of $200,000 for 10 years, and then an additional up to $180,000 based upon the cost of doing the trail around the across the street there around the detention basin. Yes.
And we're amending this because, I mean, those lots are already in.
Well, when I read,
a
yes.
Urban renewal.
So
This is a new
when we
agreement.
approve the agreements, there'll be an agreement for this. And there'll also be an amendment to the old agreement, taking those lots out of the old calculation to the old agreement. So that there will be no double dipping anyways. So.
Go ahead, what do you got?
Actually, I just wanted a copy of the packet. It's public, right?
Yeah, it's also on our website if you want a physical copy.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
all right.
okay.
Can you wait till after? the meeting?
After the meeting.
Okay, hearing no more comments on the public hearing of the amendment to the amended and restated West Branch Urban Renewal Plan. I will close the public hearing and move to resolution 22-20, approving and adopting an amendment number 4 to the amendment and restated urban renewal plan for the West Branch urban renewal area. Motion, please.
So move. Second.
We received no comments in our consultation meetings. No one showed
Yeah.
up. So
My question was here, there's a section here that says paragraph 3 will be removed. This replaces.
Yeah, so.
Oh, is that what you just said? kind
So
of?
basically, you just keep adding projects, and then what happened is, so every year you have to, the last piece is a debt, basically a summary of the city's thing that Maggie prepares for us. And so basically, when you amend it, you remove the old one, you put this one in. Each time you do it, depending what the year it is. So if we did another amendment before June 30th, we won't have to change this because this will still be the same debt summary. But under the code, you're required to have the debt summary with your, you're required to show what your your debt summary is and required to show how much the cost of the project would be. And the project would be up to $380,000 in rebates.
That's why the Spirit financial statement.
Yes, that's a requirement of the urban renewal code to include that every time. So, but if we do another amendment, which we believe we're gonna do before the end of the fiscal year, we won't have to change this because it's the same.
Perfectly clear.
Sure. Let's go to quiz ladies.
I've been doing this 6 years. Thank God Kevin's here. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve, so any comments? Go ahead, Leslie.
Councilperson Dean,
Yes.
Goodweiler?
Yes.
Stulman?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Sexton?
Yes.
All right, something easy, a band. Resolution 22-21, approving an entertainment contract for Hoover's Hometown Days 2022 in the amount of $2,000. Need a motion, please.
So move.
Second, anyone? Second. Nick? This is for Sugar Daddy? No. Trophy
Trophy
Daddy.
Dads.
Same thing.
He's a West Brancher, local kid. Learned how to play in a band. He about your age? He's older than you.
I don't know who it is. I don't know who it is. It's been a long time. Oh, he's way older.
Way older.
Like a decade older
Way older. He's way older.
Not quite as.
All right, I've heard them, they're really good. Did I get a motion?
Yes, we did.
All right, let's vote.
Councilperson Dean,
Yes.
Goodweiler?
Yes.
Sexton?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Stulman?
Yes. Resolution 22-22, approving a 3-year service contract with Interstate Power Systems for annual service on the city's emergency generator. This is at the lift station south of town. Looks like it's, we've been using them for a number of years. A motion, please.
Second.
Anything else? Okay, Leslie.
This is $2,000 just for them to come look at it for 3 years.
For 3 years.
If they do any work, we have to pay $135 an hour on top of that.
Pretty important that it works. Yeah, you don't want to go. Really.
Huh?
There's one generator that goes out. That's probably not the one we want going out during it.
What are the other options?
I don't know. I mean, I'm just,
Yeah.
Well, they have some risk in saying it's working correctly, and then if they don't, so they have to charge, not a de minimis fee just to cover that.
I didn't know if Ultifers had repair guys or okay. I mean, yeah, our hands are pretty much tied.
Go ahead, Matt. This is
This is just who we've used for, I don't know, probably 6-7 years now. They come out and they don't just like look at it. They run it, they do load tests on it. They check everything out to make sure that everything is working properly. They give us a list of things that could need replaced or do need replaced. And then if it's not something big, we'll do the maintenance on it. We just have them actually test it to make sure it's putting out the right amperage and the motor's nothing's drawing too much or working too hard. And that's kind of something that we'd rather keep with them. We haven't looked to see if Altorfer would do it. It's just this who we started working with back shortly after we got the lift station, so it's who we've stuck with.
not a Caterpillar generator either, though.
No, I can't remember what the motor is in it.
It says Kohler here on our packet.
Yeah.
Take a day.
Twice a year, probably. They test it twice a year?
Oh, they do a load test and then they just do a.
They do the one time is just they run it, they check everything over. The other time is they do actual load tests. They run all of our pumps off of it and basically just make sure that's going to run. They're out there for quite a while when they do that.
But you do the basic changing oil and stuff like that, right?
Right. If they come out and there's something like bigger, they'll give us a price, and if we want them to replace it or fix it, they'll fix it. If it's a belt or a hose or oil changes, we typically do some of that. So.
All right, thank you, Matt.
Yep.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Leslie.
Councilperson Sexton,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Stulman, Dean,
Yes.
Goodweiler.
Yes.
Resolution 22-23, approving a final plat with conditions for the Sarah Park subdivision. Motion, please. Can I move? So this is at the end of, I need a second.
Second. Oh, I thought you were pausing.
It's the end
I
of-
need a second.
I'm sorry, the end of 4th Street, if anybody's unclear, it's the end of 4th Street. Leroy Allballs, no, Anita Allballs place.
So the covenant is basically protecting the road right away, so they can put anything in, we can bring the road straight out there if it ever comes into the city. So that is, the covenant on here is protecting the road right of way if it ever gets annexed in the future.
They can't put any structures in the future. Right
I didn't
away.
know that we had the right to do that.
We have the right to do subdivisions within 2 miles of the city limits to put, so that if it ever comes into the city that we have, we can look at it, so it's not a complete, if it has to come into the city, that we can, it'll come in correctly. So like here, if they put a house there, we'd have a problem, we'd have to, but we have the right to do that within 2 miles. We don't have to. You can waive it, if something's never going to come in the city within 2 miles, but this one obviously is right on the border. So you want to have some restrictions there. So if somebody ever developed that, obviously the restriction says you have to pay for the road, which you normally would, but if somebody wants to develop that into something bigger, the developer would have to, put the road in themselves anyway. So but this is just making sure that we have the opportunity to take the road straight out there if it ever comes to that.
So like big boy cities, you go to Iowa City, you talk to them and about coming into their town, or you're right on the outside of their town, they'll come out with books and they literally have binders like this that shows there's gonna be a road going here. I mean, they got it all planned out. This is how it's gonna go, So we really kind of ought to do that a little bit too.
This one's easy
This is
because it's right.
Kinda how it's gonna go, We
We
grow
almost
that
had
way,
a
we'll
house
take-
on the end of College Street. The previous administrator wanted to build his house on the
Right.
end of College Street, but
Yep.
we
Well,
made him move it around. a
there's
little.
been some stuff done around here that's kind of made people go, painted us in a corner, so.
Will we get another look at this subdivision if it ever?
Only if they
Versus-
split it, again.
Yeah.
As of right now, it's just the farmstead split, so you could theoretically put, by county standards, you could put like an ag house there or a farmhouse there, but not 100 homes or anything.
No. So
Well, I
if
think if they started to do that, I think
we
we just.
well, I would think that if they want to do something like that, they would annex into the city. Because it'd be more,
They'd want
you
water
can
and
you can
sewer.
get more, you get water, sewer, plus you get more money for your lots that way, usually.
You have to put a septic on every lot.
Yeah, there's some problems with
Didn't think that way.
it. Okay. But,
Okay. Any other questions? Go ahead, Leslie.
Councilperson Dean,
Yes.
Sexton,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Stulman,
Yeah.
Goodweiler.
All right, let's talk about solid waste tipping fees. We need a direction to move forward to. we currently pay 16,000-ish a year. All right.
Correct. I guess the main direction we need, we're running out of our, I guess, our water billing cards that we do. And if we are going to add some sort of tipping fee to the cost, whether we try and get the whole 16,000, whether we phase it over a number of years, so it's not a huge jump. We need to know, because in the next 30 days, Leslie will have to we order those things in bulk for cheap. So I guess if you guys are wanting to entertain that discussion and do something in July, then we'd want to know now so we can order those papers. Otherwise, we'll just have this conversation again in 6 months. That's the main purpose, not necessarily say, let's do this dollar amount or phase it. It's, are you guys for sure you want to have this discussion in July?
There's a limitation on the postcard, like right now, there's no more space, even though there visually looks like there's plenty of space to add more lines. There is no space. When we added the trash 2 years ago, I used up all of my available space. So when somebody has a past due water bill and maybe a second water meter,
That has to
it
go
pushes
on.
it all into 2 bills. And then one bill doesn't print correctly. One has all the totals and one has the names.
You're making it too difficult. No, Leslie, you're making it too difficult. You just add whatever Johnson County did. Don't call it a tipping fee, just call it part of the garbage fee. So instead of $17, it's $19.50 or whatever.
But we pay Johnson County those fees. So then Johnson County would collect that money. There's no way for us to split that out. It's done by a rate table.
So when the water bill comes, when people pay their water bill, it goes to Johnson County,
No, it all
then you can
goes,
split it.
it's all calculated by a rate table. So in order to add another fee, there's going to create another rate table, and that rate table creates a new line on the bill. So I'm out of space. It's a system limitation. I can't get around it.
She's itemized in it, basically.
Because we can't split your water fee and say, oh, let's take your water and spend it on trash.
It's the way the system was set up.
So you can't collect 2 different funds on the same line. And you split
The
that
system
out.
calculates out all of the different breakdowns. So I bill you 50, you give me 50, and the system knows to put each of those amounts into those buckets. So if we're throwing the money that we need to keep on our trash, then we have to do a calculation on the back end to say, okay, this much money goes to Johnson County and this much goes to the city.
Okay, so back to the task. If we're gonna have trash, paper, trash, we need to collect this money somehow.
You have to include it in an ordinance, since it's a fee
That's fine.
for that.
So what you're getting at, to build that out, you gotta go to full paper.
And
fold
even,
it.
yeah,
It
and then
costs more to mail out.
well, we do have a folding machine. I bought that a few years ago because we were mailing stuff out. So we've got that done. The paper would be, I just would use regular paper. It wouldn't have to be special paper. Run it through the folder. We would have to use envelopes and there would be postage. I checked with another city a few years back and they said that they were able to buy pre-postage paper envelopes. But when I asked where they got them, they couldn't remember. So I have to
You have
work
to
on
have
that.
an envelope also.
Yes, they would have an envelope. So
So
they
they
would be,
tri-fold it and put a. You do it without an envelope?
they'd have to be stapled then, and I don't know how the post office would like that. It'd probably be even less worse mail delivery service than what we have right now. Anyway, so when we just got, when we did the trash changeover, I mean, besides the fact that all of that stuff has to happen, I have to work with the vendor, then I have to add that rate to every single bill. And we have to determine what that rate should be.
How many are we being billed right now currently?
There's about 1,200 accounts that I.
That's gonna grow.
That came out to about $1.15 a month per person,
Per account.
per count. We could ask for free will donation.
Put a bucket out.
We don't have any of them. We already have. We have the number of how many accounts.
So is this a bill that this would be an interesting bill, wouldn't it? Because this rate would go down every year. Unless they,
City gets bigger.
yeah.
Or they raise
Cedar
their
County
prices.
don't charge us.
As long as
more.
Cedar County
Yeah,
doesn't charge us
Eventually,
more.
that's gonna go up.
Oh, I see.
Population goes up. So it goes from
This would be one of
It
those-
hasn't gone up
$1
Cedar County much at all. In fact, the Cedar County Board of Supervisors decided to pitch in $10,000. It was kind of out of balance, residential people versus city folks, where it was biased more towards city folks paying for the transfer station. We're gonna get a new transfer station bill. Couple $1 million, do you remember? You weren't there, but it's B&K's in on it. How much was it?
Did you see him grin? Yeah.
And it's- This is a company out of Eldridge. Anyway.
Different rates for different people.
Well, Adam and I talked about that when he gave a flat number, and I said, kind of like when we did the trash changeover, there several angry people called. So like there are some people that don't put out a lot of trash because they recycle really well. So they only have 35-gallon carts. And then we have the people who have 65-gallon carts, and then we have the people who have dumpsters. So the person who's paying 35 has a 35-gallon cart, they shouldn't pay the same prices as someone who has a dumpster.
Now we're making it complicated.
No, I'm just,
Okay, well
it's,
then.
Well, except the part of that has nothing to do with your trash going there. It has to do with, it's almost like a trash tax from the county.
is it per capita or is it volume?
And it has to do with,
Capita.
you have to be a county resident to use that. All right. Now, my understanding is not only do you have to be a county resident to use that, the city you're from, in order for West Springers to use that, they have to pay this tipping fee. So if you wanted to throw your sofa away, we didn't pay the tipping fee, it ain't going there.
They won't charge them it, but they won't take their trash cans back too. They can take.
Which I don't know how they can determine that, because if a plate has Cedar County on it, they can't tell you
Right.
which town it came from, so.
That's because probably everybody pays.
We don't.
So
pay
they
as
don't
much
have to
county
deal
tax.
with it.
We don't pay as much.
We
As
don't.
soon as
if
somebody
I
doesn't
was-
pay, they'll start IDing at the transfer station.
No.
So if I was to
I'm-
load on my
I've
truck
been-
and take it over there every week
You can probably
to
ship
the
it in Illinois,
transfer
but they-
station, means I'm a resident of Cedar County, I wouldn't have to pay anything.
No, you still gotta pay.
Yes, they.
For volume, you gotta pay for volume.
It's like a
City you
truck
live in, it
roller.
just paid for you to be able to go pay to use it.
That's to
Yeah.
get our trash removed over.
It's
What
like
we
a
take to the curb.
subsidy. We're subsidizing.
Okay, but that's kind of beside the point. We gotta decide
If you want to start charging. the
if we
tipping
want to
fee.
start charging at all, we need to change the system a little bit.
Question I would have is, I'm kind of got whiff that we're actually maybe gonna charge more for our sewer rates. So here again, we're getting to the point where it's almost unaffordable to live in this town because everything that you need to live in this town is costing you more and more and more.
That's exactly what I talked to Adam about.
But
the
so,
other day.
The issue is where are you gonna go? It's not that way.
We don't have a choice. We've got very little choice of
Not to say that, I
on the
mean.
bids
you
of the
move to
sewer
Tiffin.
plant. and-
Yeah, you want to see expensive.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, there's nothing, I understand it, and I understand the sentiment, but there's nowhere you're gonna go to right now that isn't that way. Let's just go to like this Canksville, Clarence. Then you're
I don't know.
50 miles away from.
But- as a city, we have decided that we were gonna have our utilities pay for our utilities, our entities pay for our entities, right? At least for the most part. So water was gonna pay for water, sewer's gonna pay for sewer. It's impossible for stormwater to pay for stormwater just because, the amount you'd have to pay to do any kind of stormwater projects is astronomical. The fee would be crazy. So that one's kind of out, but it shouldn't be too hard to ask for garbage to pay for. That shouldn't be money that we should have to subsidize out of our general funds. I've talked to some people about this. And most of them, when you start talking about having to charge them more for garbage, they start throwing stuff on the ground and they slam the door in your face. All that other stuff. Then when you tell them it's $1.25 a month, they look at me like, what are you even asking me for about $1.25? I mean, inevitably, there's going to be some people that $1.25 is going to be a huge deal.
Other than the fact that we just switched over to garbage cans, which cost the residents quite a bit more money than what they've been paying before.
But Jerry, that was beyond our control. That wasn't something we.
I understand that. I'm just saying that we are continually adding every,
It almost would have been, I mean, it's almost a misnomer, because it almost would have been as expensive, if not more, if we would have stuck with the stickers, because those rates were gonna triple.
Yeah.
So it's actually, in the long run, it was cheaper to go to these cans than it was to stick with the stickers, but nobody wanted to look
not
at
if you're
that
somebody
math.
that does,
Even then, even if you did 2 bags, it
not
was
if you're
still
somebody
almost more
that
expensive.
only uses one bag because you recycle so good. I'm
Okay,
just
but
saying.
here's another thing. We're also talking about raising our sewer rates even more.
That's
So
like
we're
half.
gonna hit them again.
And water too, probably.
Well, yeah, and water too. So it's like Jerry said, to live here, we're getting as bad as North Liberty and
If you don't do these little increases every year or every so often, then you put yourself in a terrible position 4 or 5 years down the road. Then you gotta start making big adjustments, huge adjustments that are life altering.
Are residents paying the same amount whether we put it on their sewer bill, their trash bill, or collect it in their taxes? It's
We'll
the
raise
same
their
amount of
taxes.
money going out.
okay, so how
It's the
long
same
we've been,
amount of money
how long has this been coming out of our budget?
Ever,
Huh?
forever.
forever.
Then why are we changing it now?
Because we're,
If it's always been that way, then why are we changing it now?
because it's a positive change. It's a,
I mean, to me, that's part of my taxes. I pay my taxes. You pay my lift tipping fee.
It's like a commodity. The city has determined that we will be in charge of supplying water, sewer, and taking care of garbage and recyclable. Now, I'm pretty sure Media Stream cable doesn't subsidize Media Stream internet. And that's exactly what we're doing here. We're subsidizing our waste. It's coming out of our general budget.
could we create a line item? I'm just throwing thing, a line item, a solid waste line item in the general fund, just like we do Matt Goodell's line item for vehicles or the police vehicle.
It's in
A
our-
set
Could it
aside,
be a set aside? That is pigeonholed to solid waste. Is that a possibility? It's
where would
tax-
you plan on that money coming from?
It's
that's
a general
the
fund,
problem,
it's a
is-
general fund, but it's just,
So you.
It's still general fund.
You're
I know,
saying no
I know.
different then.
no different at all, just.
Right now, it's, yes, there's 16,000 directly from the general fund that goes to pay. And that is a line item. It's just buried in
It's just
the
there,
1,000
it's
line
all there,
items we
yeah.
have, but it's in there.
Well, then my taxes should go down. If I start paying for this outright, then my taxes should go down because I won't have to pay that $1.25 a month anymore to the city.
But gas went up, so then we're gonna have to.
I'm gonna go get a dumpster and start using a dumpster.
That'll be more than $1.25 a month. Yeah, we'll help you out a bit, haven't we?
$16,000 in the general fund to go to something else.
I just
Not
know I
just
hear a
garbage.
lot of people, when they get their water bill, they're like, wow, I'm paying twice what I did a year ago or 2 years ago.
I know,
It
yeah.
just continually goes up and up.
Well, I mean,
That's
that's
getting
one
to
of
a point where it's
It's also one of the
$150 a
issues.
day.
Yeah, I
I
guess
wasn't-
to Kevin's point, and this is one of the things I talked about with in coffee and collaboration. Unfortunately, and I don't always like to make a public statement like this, but unfortunately, your predecessors on the council, when they knew this was coming 10, 20 years ago, decided not to raise rates. And so now we've had to raise them really sharply in 3 years, and you're catching the brunt of it, Jerry. Not that it makes it any better, but if we would have raised them 10, 20 years ago when we knew there was an issue coming, that's partially why they're so
I
high.
stand corrected here, Adam. My last time on the council, we knew this was coming and we said we need to prepare and we need to put that money, we need to raise the rates and put that money away, and it never was, and it was spent.
What rates you talking about?
Sewer rates.
Well, and since I've been on here, we've raised the sewer and water rates 3 years consecutively, I think, when we first got on, maybe 4 years. And then we just did it again, so there's
But
almost.
but that money, that's when I got off and you got on, that money was to go to set aside to pay for the new sewer system. And it never was pigeonholed anywhere and it got spent.
But part of that, irrelevant, but part of that was the city wasn't running water as a business and sewer as a business, that the general fund was subsidizing a lot of that. So then when they raised the rates, that's when they made the change and decided we want to try to run these as separate businesses. So the money you were raising to set aside was actually money that they were putting in there to pay the bills. So the general fund wasn't having to pay it.
I was gonna say the same thing. We're feeling the brunt of
Yeah.
decades of
Oh, yeah.
negligence on raising rates. So I mean,
Same.
yeah, it
the
hurts.
Same with 4-inch water mains on the other side of town.
I mean, yeah, it hurts, but I mean, we're catching up 20 years in 3.
Well, and one of the things.
So I mean, for the people that have been sitting here comfortable living in town saying these water rates and stuff are great, go to Seoul and go to the other towns that we compare ourselves to, and they've seen their rates go like this consistently over the last decades, keeping it even, where we've just sitting there kicking it under the rug for the last 15 years, maybe taking little bites at a time, because there's been 5 people sitting around this council saying, we don't want to anger anybody in town over garbage rates, so let's raise it a nickel, which essentially got you $5 a year when it cost you $6 more. So you just sat there and dug a hole for the last 20 years, and now we're catching up. And it's not fun for anybody that lives in town, but you got 20 years worth of living it pretty good in the water and sewer rates.
One of the things I talked to Mark about when I first got on the council and stuff, and we had all these needs, sewer needed done over here and water mains needed done over here, and so we were doing all this stuff, and I asked Mark, I was like, he'd been on there for like 20 years. I was like, dude, what you guys been doing for 20 years? What you do with all the money? He's like, hold mud money. There wasn't any. So he goes, our budget used to be half of what it is now.
It was 800,000 the first year I got on.
Still haven't helped you out much.
I'm fine with it. How about that?
The paper, the new paper,
I mean,
is that an opportunity that we could like put some messaging on there too?
And
Okay,
if we have to
here's what I
stuff,
wanna know.
if we have to put something in there, extra paper, we could stuff bills,
Yeah,
stuff it in the bills.
I kind of like the opportunity to, Hoover Days messaging.
I put that
So,
on.
how much money is it gonna cost for you guys to sit there? How much time is it gonna take for you guys to sit there and fold each one? Put it in, how much does it cost for an envelope?
I'm working on those,
Are we gonna end up spending more money
it's probably gonna.
for the envelope and for her time to sit there and fold them? Then $1.25?
That's. I would hope that she would be faster than that. Yeah, I mean,
I did this years ago. I stuffed bills on bill day, and right now with the postcards, they come 3 to a sheet. This piece comes off, I have to fold them, tear that off, and there's a piece down here, fold that. Then I have to tear them all apart, and then I have to sort the PO box. So right now, that takes me about an hour and a half to do that, and then run them through the machine. The folding, I can just put some in, walk away. Yeah, they get all messed up, but then I pull them out. I did a stuffing. We did a mailing. Oh, when we did the trash changeover. Actually, I had a part-time person from Parks and Rec come over and help me. And we got the envelope stuffed within 2 hours. So I may need, to borrow an employee on bill day to help, but I don't think it's going to take more time. It might be a little bit more expensive, but it's going to be the postage part more so in the material. Because the cost of the postcards are not cheap. Those are not, we have to order those special. I'm just gonna get a box of paper from Will.
So do we have to pay the full postage?
Well, that's where I gotta find out. I'm gonna see if we can get a bulk rate. And I just haven't had a chance to investigate that. I just needed to know if we were gonna do it. I need to get going because it's gonna take out, remember, there's only me in the office to do this. So I have to have time to do that.
You can run it through the little thingy though, right?
Oh, yeah. I bought the folding machine specifically because I knew this would happen eventually. I knew we would eventually have to go to a paper bill.
Do other communities do the little postcards too?
Most of them have moved away from it.
Yeah, that's what I
Walcott, they
thought.
moved away. And so they were the ones I talked to first. And they actually, when they got the folding machine and went to the envelopes, they got rid of their postage machine. Because that postage machine, I pay, it's usually about $500 a month in postage for all the stuff that we mail each week or each month. And then we pay $180 every quarter for the maintenance of it. And if we have to replace it, I have no idea what that would cost. It'd just be
You
easier
still
to
use
take.
that, right?
No, I would actually, if the envelopes have pre-postage, I would just take them to the post office.
Oh.
So I'd want to get like gummed envelopes that I stick.
Well, I say we do the envelope route. That's my opinion.
Well, not to make it more complicated, but I know we have to pay online. Does that functionality does it have any paperless? 'Cause I get it and I throw it in the garbage.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
wait, I don't have any bills that come to me via paper anymore.
Yeah.
0. So, I mean, I get the little postcard and my wife grabs it and then hands it to me and then I drop it right in the recycling bin.
I'm such a millennial.
I need a paper bill for it.
Yes,
Automatically
unfortunately,
comes in.
this, I don't believe it does. I think that was one of the questions I asked when I first started. We went through a system, but it was an online, all this kind of stuff, and it was gonna be like $12,000. And I'm like, really? Why would we want to spend that? We didn't have that many water bills. But then 2-3 years ago, when the salesperson came in and I found out about this, and I said, as far as I remember, it does everything but email bills. But if you know your account number, you can set up an account. I just can't suspend it. I can, there's no way for me to pick and choose which ones don't get bills.
I was just curious because I think there's a significant portion of people in town that do exactly what I do.
Yeah, I have about,
You could save even more on paper and then.
You're saying there's a lot of you millennials in town.
I know a lot of people that aren't even millennials that
I'd
do
like
the
to
same
have
thing.
more.
there's about 200 people that use the online system each month.
Okay, so
say
let's move on. Let's get this resolved. I say we go to paper. Anybody
That wasn't
disagree?
what we were even discussing. We were discussing whether or not we were gonna charge the people the fee or not.
Well, if we do the fee, we gotta go paper.
So that's how we're doing it. We're just deciding whether or not we want to do paper or not.
That's what they need to
Because
know.
if you go
We've got
paper-
30 days supply of.
We can go paper and still not change it, but
Yeah,
if we
we
ever
can.
change,
Yeah.
if we ever change to one more fee on the bill, I'm gonna have to go to paper anyway. Whether it's this charge or something
That's what
else.
forced the paper conversation.
I'd say if we go for the paper, eventually we're gonna need it no matter what.
That's my feeling.
So we're already halfway set up. for it.
Paper. Next paper.
I don't want
Pay
any,
for less.
but that's, I don't think that's an option.
I don't know where Jody's at. How about you?
Matter to me.
Doesn't matter. I'm thinking paper.
I'll get working on it. I just didn't want to buy a bunch of paper stock and then.
So now, Jody, it doesn't even matter. We're gonna pay that extra money for the stuffings anyway, whether we charge it or not.
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying, Colton.
$1.25 at 12 per account, that's.
We're gonna end up paying for it anyhow. With Leslie's time, envelope, postage, you're paying for the $1.25.
You're good.
I'm not sure if
Activity
Leslie's
for a
time
council
and
person to
postage
come
is gonna
in.
cost us 13 grand.
We're mayor, you're the one that makes the big bucks.
Cause it's $1.25 a person, it's like $1,500 a month. I don't think it's gonna cost Leslie in envelopes in 2 hours,
That's true.
$1,500.
Actually, we ought to just stuff them while we're here at our meeting.
You come 20 minutes early.
There's something to do.
I
will lay them
personally
out and
pick it up
we'll get
at
a stack.
Tidewater.
Y'all the quota to get done
Bunch of
before you can
quilters
leave.
sitting around. All right, we're gonna move on. That was the longest.
I'm just thinking.
Okay, last week or so, Adam and I went with a representative of a hotel that may be interested in a site up here. In order for that hotel to move ahead with financing, they have to have a feasibility study.
So I went over there and
State
looked
law.
and it's feasible. It'll fit there.
There we go,
So
done.
we'll give you 10,000 for
Free.
that. Okay.
Apparently, they cannot do it themselves, conflict of interest.
What are they?
They're under the Federal Trade Commission.
What are they trying to figure out? There's enough people to stay there or?
Yeah.
Yes,
They
and what rate you
get a
can
loan from
charge,
the
what
bank.
amenities, and a bank won't give a hotel or a franchisee a loan until they see this feasibility study. Because they're regulated by the Federal Trade.
So I think their
Commission.
source of
Now, say
funding,
it's 10 minutes from Iowa City.
Well, they could say Iowa
Seems like
City
a
has like
no-brainer.
7,000 hotels already.
No, but good thing would be is to have Pete bring that little study that his park brings in $4.65 billion a year to the. And we're missing it because we don't got a hotel.
We got a golf course.
Yeah, got a golf course, we got a wedding
apparently
facility.
that's all the things they like to find out, so. So the question is,
Well,
how
Do we
much
have to
would
pay
it be,
for
like
it, or-
$10,000?
7 to 10 has been the 3 to 5 companies. that have talked. 7 to 10,000.
So I guess we're proposing that we pay for that study. We pay for the study, we own it, we can give it to, if that company falls through, we can give it
How
to
long is the
somebody
study
else.
good for?
Question, probably, that's a good question. I should have asked that. one.
Probably.
They can't pay for it,
Most studies are
It's a
5
conflict of
years.
interest. they
I was gonna
said.
say,
but if they're hiring a
traffic
third
studies
party.
last for a long time. They'll pull one up 20 years ago and say, this is the way it's supposed to be.
How much is a feasibility study?
7 to 10, depending on who we go with and all
So
that.
we
stuff.
could use,
1,000?
No, just dollars.
We
gonna say.
7 to 10,000.
I was thinking, I thought you were-
yeah, so we have 60 grand in the hotel motel.
40.
40. It could come right out of the hotel motel fund.
Between that and the fire truck, we would be at our limit we've tried to keep ourselves at.
Can they-
So there would be no more improvised spending in hotel.
Can they provide us a study of how much they bring in as a hotel, so we know how much more money we get in a hotel
That
motel
would be
tax?
something that. they would
Some of
probably
them
know.
do that.
Well, can we ask
And
for that?
some of them
will-
$10,000
We're paying for it.
not to get it back. in whatever lifespan it's good for.
Some of them will tell you how much you'll see an uptick in restaurants and things like that. Just depends on what type of study and who you're wanting it to go for. It can help our businesses too. That's my worry of just having the developer do it. Then it's their study. It's not ours. If a new one comes in, we have to do it again. So I prefer it be in our hands.
I talked to Adam, I was wondering if there was a way, Main Street, CDG or whatever, if there was any state money that we could possibly grant or.
To pay for a feasibility study?
Yeah.
There might be, I think time take time.
We haven't had a hotel. We
$7,000.
haven't had a nice hotel here for a long, long time.
But I'm saying it would take time to get a grant, to write the grant, to get the grant. There's probably some sort of cost sharing we'd have to be on it for.
So you have to hire some,
There's people that do it. That's.
a hotel study.
They'll
about
probably
Septo?
don't
Can
just do
Septo do
hotel
one?
studies, just write a whole bunch of-
Boy,
Does
they
that
should
benefit
help
the
pay
whole
for it. It's good for Cedar
I
County,
don't
right?
know how long it's good for.
No, that's.
For the highest back taxpayer.
Okay, so
I'm curious how long.
is that a yes?
I'll
You got a
ask.
yes from guys, you guys?
Yes. Yes.
Need that in a resolution.
We will.
Yeah,
I just wanted
friendly
to,
agreement.
yep.
Be nice if we could somehow attribute some of the cost to them once they build it, being produced for them.
Building permit fee.
Possibly.
You could do that, or when you get more hotel motel and, it would just be an internal loan, be another thing you could do. So there's a couple different ways we capture it.
He said they look for local investors too.
Well, here's how we're gonna capture it. They're gonna build the hotel and then we're gonna have the hotel motel tax. I mean, that's how you capture it. The hotel, we're paying for it out of that. That's to spur economic development. Well, getting a hotel in here, that's the best money we'll ever spend for spurring.
Bet you they'll ask for TIF too.
You might.
There's $4,000 off of it for doing your feasibility study.
Yeah.
Take the first, pay
Yeah,
yourself back
well,
first.
We're tipping it.
Yeah, we're getting it.
All right, all right, that, you get an answer there. We'll see a resolution next time.
Yep. Yep.
All right, let's talk nuisance abatements, nuisance properties. What are you looking for, Adam? Where to attack?
Yes, where to attack, is it specific? Is there a top 5 to go after, or is there a certain type of nuisance I should focus on first?
I like Main Street. I like Main Street looking good. Down the street.
Do you drive around the community at all? So do you have a list?
My list is probably, unless you want a lot of people calling you, that's kind of why I'm hinting at, that's just,
You got an email just the other day from
Yep.
someone else.
Yep. that's kind of why I'm looking from your focus, because if I do it the way I've done it before, you're gonna have a lot
We're
of
gonna
people
look
that
like
don't
town
like
of
you.
Kohler up in-
Yeah, yep.
So, they, in the past, our thing was if somebody complains, then we'll do something. That's a stupid policy.
We need to drive around. We need to give Adam direction.
I don't know.
I don't know about that.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
that's how we've done it in the past.
We take spray
If you see
paint, we go
something-
out there with the X's.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know if Roger should do anything. He got in trouble already once.
You can't get out. of his
Probably
car.
want to stay home.
Can't get out of his car.
Uh,
I'd
take his
assume
chaperone.
if I gave you a list of top 5, or you gave me a list of top 5, you'd probably end up giving me 8 to 10 between all 6. And that's a good place to just,
I'd like to see that property where the East Side Cafe used to be cleaned up. Those
There's a good
cars
one
haven't,
Right there.
what's that?
That's a good one.
Those cars haven't moved in 10, 15 years.
On Main Street.
They're cleaning up that little tiny building there.
Yes, they are. It's
Yeah,
looking
That's
nice.
Barnhart owns that.
Yeah, that's.
That's why it's getting.
I was gonna move into it.
redoing.
There's
There's
another
no
house
hamburger
on,
out of
another house
Yeah.
on Main Street.
You just slowly getting
Bruce
redone.
didn't get that? That's one of yours. I didn't know.
That may be best if we get like a list of top 5 properties, because I'll end up with 8 to 12.
All right.
I don't really
We'll
want
talk.
to call people out in a meeting. you
All right.
know.
No, I'm just thinking commercial or.
I almost did.
What?
Commercial properties get count wrapped in the.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, just, yeah, I think a list of your top 5 would be helpful.
And as a reminder, we have our citywide cleanup on May 7th. So if we can get letters out, that gives people a chance to kind of start to gather their stuff, and then we'll encourage them to get rid of it on May 7th.
I'm a new water bill.
I actually put, if before you look at your next water bill, you might look in the bottom left-hand corner, because there's like, I have 3 lines and I do put messages there, but nobody ever reads them.
It was
I don't
on,
even read the
it was on my
I'll look in the
water
bottom left corner for you next month.
I usually put it out there a couple.
It
of
was.
months, yeah. Thank you for
and
noticing it.
cemetery cleanups on there.
And then if you can't fit it on there, it says go to
I
the website.
actually
and look
look
at
at
more.
mine before I.
Get one of them
I
square
look at-
things
I look
where
at
they
the
just
dollar
scan it
amount.
with their phone
Then
and
I
they'll
throw
take
it
them
away.
right to the website. to pay their bill.
Actually read the notes at the bottom of the.
Oh, the cute.
Everybody knows that. Super Bowl.
All right, let's move on. City administrator.
Councilperson Dean will not be here next meeting, so I need all 4 of you guys to show up next meeting. Otherwise, we're in trouble. So, I don't know if you guys have a preference, but our Keep Iowa Beautiful grant, there's 2 options I have in my mind. One is to try and get Travelers Rest on the National Registry, so we could get a consultant to write that. And the other one would be option 2 is having a park and rec master plan done. I'm leaning towards those being 1 and 2. We can only do probably 1 of those 2, but 1 next year and then park and rec next year. I don't know if you have an issue with that. I know you guys have had these discussions about the grants, and I didn't want to overtake it because I know you've had the discussions first. So the grant for historic preservation, to get a grant from them to hire a consultant is due in May, which is why I bring it up now. So it would give ECIA time to write us a grant.
Cost sharing involved.
It probably will be, but it'll probably be 2 years to figure that out normally. Not with ECIA, but once we get it, there probably will be some sort of match. But we'd at least have a budget year or 2 to absorb that.
Not sure it's enough time. Scramble money together.
So
The Travelers Rest.
that's that building out there on the east side of town, that house on the east side of town.
Herman House.
Maybe we're gonna stop.
So visioning committee. Here's what I envision, is that it's going to be heavy park probably by the time it's all said and done. So that would make, to me, it would almost make sense to try to see if we can get a master plan for the park, so then when they end up saying, okay, we want this, this, and this, and this, and this for our park, and this, and this, and this for our trails, then at least we'd have the money to put it in the master plan. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
So you're thinking of, we would pay for to have a master plan done?
That'd be through ECIA. Keep Iowa Beautiful.
Then we could use the money that we get from the Keep Iowa Beautiful grants that they write to pay for it. And if you have a master plan, usually when you apply for a grant, if you have a master plan, that sets off a bunch of bells and whistles.
Yeah, you might be right.
Now, they could, the visioning board could prove me wrong and say they want to go the historic direction, and then we will have dropped the ball on that, so.
And I didn't know if it's easier to get donations for historic preservation or not. That was another thought of mine. It tends to be that support, but I know where you're going. You can't get grants without a master plan.
Well, I was gonna talk about the visioning thing when we were up there. There's a lot of work to do. There's a whole lot of work still to be done on that.
I mean, because that's, for the most part, that's probably what's gonna come out of it is they're gonna want some kind of a recreation, some amenities, that type of deal. You don't see too many visiting committees say, I think we need water mains. That's just the unsexy thing. They're gonna wanna swimming pools and. Right.
Well, there's a
Yeah.
March 26th, there's a focus groups meeting over here at the new Rummel Center that we can all attend.
The new what?
It's called the Rummel Center, old US Bank. And
The newer old bank.
it's still probably, anyway.
Well, how do you know
There's
that?
focus groups. assembling.
hasn't been
We have a
announced
meeting on
yet.
Wednesday. I hope you can make the meeting. What?
You say, how'd you know what that about it?
What?
How'd you know it was called the Rumbles Group or whatever?
Well, there goes a grand opening.
They're on the side of the building.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, is there?
Yeah,
I
that's
thought
not,
Roger like ruined it.
how about
Visioning committees working. You done, Aaron?
Well, I didn't get direction.
Paper.
Paper.
I guess my point is if you're not going the historic preservation route, then that's fine. But if you want to go that route, I need to know so I can have ECIA coordinate with their staff. Because to write a grant typically doesn't take 15 days, it takes 45. By the time you coordinate with everybody.
I think that's an important piece of West Branch history, and we need to do all we can to save it.
I don't disagree with that.
Most people in town probably don't even know it's there.
I guess though, but that's the question. What kind of grant do we think we're gonna get? I mean, if we get a grant where they're gonna give us this amount and we
Pete,
gotta
do
make
you want
up,
to chime in?
they gotta make up the difference. So if it's a matching type of
You've been sitting
grant,
over this.
are
whole
we
time.
in a position to what we're gonna be
probably
able to
wanted
put
my
any kind of money into something like
No, see,
that?
we're in no position to put any kind of money. I can't see it in the next 5 years. being in that position.
Correct. We're not asking money to improve the building. We're asking for money to hire somebody to write, to put it on the National Historic Register.
Sounds like a good acquisition for the. Come back in 10 years.
And not that we're taking it
I can
over. We're
answer
just,
So your first step is in preserving the property is to get the National Register nomination. And that would reflect what is the Network of Freedom. The National Park Service has a network trails of Underground Railroad. And it's called Network of Freedom. Your first step would be to have someone craft that National Register nomination. I have talked to the State Historic Preservation Office, and they're gonna try to dig up any files they have on it that'll help you get along that way, but somebody has to write the nomination first. We look to see if the Park Service could fund it, but unfortunately I can't. It doesn't appear I can if it's outside of my boundaries. I'm not dead in the water there yet, but I don't, but because it's out of my boundary, I don't believe I can. So that's why I've been sending Adam some grant opportunities for other folks that can write this register nomination. Once the register nomination is approved by the State Historic Preservation Office, then it would receive certain property protections. So whether or not it ever becomes part of the national park is something I can't answer until the national parks, until the agency says what they believe their position would be. So.
We don't want that. We can't tax
Yeah.
We wouldn't get the $800, $400 a year. we
There
get
would,
off.
there would be that.
I'm assuming you can probably apply more than once. It's not like you apply and then
Well, the Keep Iowa Beautiful part of ECIA, we get one or two, depending on how lengthy the grant is, free grant writing. So if we did parks planning, for sure, that's the only thing we could do. I'd have to double check what they're pricing on historic preservation, but
I was just
Yeah.
curious if, for something like that. I mean, I don't think it's a planning and zoning thing, so I don't think John would have anybody that could do it, but I'm sure he might be able to know somebody that as a candidate
Here,
at the university.
here's the part that
Just
confuses
saying
me.
as another track, I mean, John Fuller might know another professor that does that and has a PhD candidate or somebody that might be willing to write it. Because it's not something that I don't think people get to write all the time. I don't know. I don't write a lot of
correct.
grants or national historic preservation.
And I don't know where Iowa stands on historic, it may be Iowa State because that's more of an architectural school.
I was just curious, just tossing it out. John might know.
So we want to apply for a grant that would help pay for somebody to nominate this building to put it on the register.
Correct. Correct.
That's why I asked. PhD student. That's gonna do this for
Needs a
living,
project
needs
to
a project.
graduate. I mean, it should be a no-brainer. We should be able to get a 12-pack of beer and sit down here and write why it's historically, it's, you're not trying to convince somebody that, this building is historical, the old laundromat is,
But
you know.
I don't think any of us know the real history behind it.
You did do a lot of research into.
It's just a lot of time. and
Yeah, you gotta
research.
collaborate,
That's-
and find
that's
all
why.
the research that said it truly was part of it.
Who owned it
Yeah.
and all that.
So see, it wouldn't even have to be a government person. It could be just some history.
That's what I was thinking too. You got a history student.
Okay, so what do we gotta do to move forward with that? You're asking if. Keep Iowa
My
Beautiful-
direction is no, then we'll go forward on most likely Parks and Rec master plan. If the direction is go with historic preservation, then it would be ECIA would draft a grant to get us more funding. So then we could hire a consultant. So just preference in what you want to use that free grant writing thing for. From ECIA.
Historical building.
Park and Rec would serve a lot more people.
Well, that's why I was leaning towards. making it
Once it's
building, but
gone, it's
turning it into
gone.
somebody's project, or
I think
that's why I
that
say
house-
you utilize John, because we have him.
I think he's gonna be around a while longer. The owner. Because I'm lost. I don't know.
Well, we've got it's just the time crunch, right? He wants to have a decision by May for a building that's been here for 50 years. Or we can wait and see, let Pete finish doing his stuff. to see if he can-
That'll take a lot of,
I don't
No
have
faith
hope
in
that
I got faith in Pete, but it's.
We're told
It's
not
gotta
to.
be
Not that
nationally
much, so.
recognized first before Pete can potentially get his hands on.
Without it being
I think the
recognized.
John Fuller avenue would be more. feasible.
We have till May, well.
That's not coming up.
Well, take Bright on the net registry is, I don't think there's a deadline. There's just a deadline to get funding from the state to help. So,
Put a word, reach out to John and come up with something, see if he has an idea, and then talk about next meeting, or is next meeting too late?
Just the sooner the better, I guess.
Kind of wishy-washy right now.
So,
I mean, I think it should be.
I think so too. Just- I'm on the fence on which one to go.
well, if it's a toss up. Park and Rec was on your strategic goals that you passed this year, so we can go with that, and I'll just work with John, and if it comes
Yeah,
back
that's a
around,
good-
it comes back around. So we can do Park and Rec master plan first. That's fine.
Kevin, you have anything?
No, I'll pass tonight. Dave?
Some quick updates. I-80 utility project under the bridge on the old railroad corridor. We're still waiting for the gas company to get us their final plans for relocation. DOT wanted us to coordinate that effort since they're both utility projects. As soon as we get that, we'll be able to get those plans out to bid. We need to work on the sponsored project / flood project, Bronick down in the park area. Did talk with a couple of property owners down there, and they are all agreeable to us working in that area, with the exception of one major property owner on the downstream. We have the paperwork completed for that.
Yep, it's getting sent out tomorrow. We just signed it all.
We'll move forward with that here shortly. Continue to work with Parkside Hills. They have a subdivision that'll coming in on one of the lots, that's a commercial lot right behind the DB. So that'll be split into two. We'll see that shortly. I was out at Mobile Home Village. They have most of the infrastructure in place. The grading is done. You need to check on just a couple of minor items out there, and that'll be pretty close to complete. Have a number of residential lot site plans that have been coming in, primarily for Meadows, northern part. Continue to review those. Meadows 3A, we're looking at some things out there as far as coordination. That one should be coming up relatively soon. I would suspect we'll have a plan on that. And then Roger, I think you're going to mention something about the stream team. We're going to be coming up soon on that.
Nothing about the roundabout?
Roundabout. Well, we have an agreement that's been drafted, and we have an updated estimate, which is pretty close to what we expected, but until we get the agreement signed, we really don't have much of an update.
So you forwarded the
I-
2080 to.
Yep, I'm reviewing it
Okay.
and make sure the exhibits match up. That's the biggest issue really. Is make sure that
Take Swisher-
lines and.
take Swisher out.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed that was still in there, so I pointed that out last time.
Are we running out of time to get this done this year?
So the email that they had indicated they're still attempting to do this, depending upon how long it takes to get the agreement through and get the design done. It may not get completed this year, but they're still working to try to get the majority of it done. Might have some great to do next year.
What's our projected cost on that? I saw 606,000 was
The construction cost,
Construction.
and then if we divide out the
Design work still.
design work and the construction review work, we're 700 and some thousand.
Yeah.
700, and yeah, acquisition. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, the acquisition, if we do it part of the 3A, just have that reserve easement as part of that with that development.
Okay.
That takes care of that acquisition, and we just need to talk with the school.
Okay. Okay.
shouldn't be much money.
Well, not if we get the subdivision to do it, and the school should be amenable to it.
Any idea when the interstate's gonna start? doing the-
We're going to be starting some work in the general vicinity. You probably saw the work down by the bridge. If you're east or west of town here. Still be working on that. They've got some utilities they're going to be putting in, but they really won't start a lot of the big work until 23.
So after Johnson County gets Hoover Highway put in.
Correct, which is part of this push to get around the rock too.
Then Main Street.
They're supposed to go down Highway 6.
Well,
That's the detour.
Thank you, Dave.
We're gonna close the roundabout off and put a toll booth.
free will donation.
Free will.
Yeah.
Donations, you know, I'm driving
Get
down
your
Highway
wristband.
6, my GPS says that's our main street.
All right,
Highway
city
fast.
staff, anyone? I see Matt, Heidi, Chief. Hearing nothing. Mayor and council, so what I have is on what Wednesday, 23rd, March. The stream team, 23rd?
Yeah, that's Wednesday.
The stream team is going to get together.
I did, but I didn't read it right.
Yeah, you were here. The stream team, basically we want to explain what the park has done. There's been some improvements with the park. Explain that what's going on in the downstream project. I'd like to get Charlie here to run the model. He's one who does that, right?
Yes.
And I invited Cedar County engineer, Rob, for just information, nothing specific really, but if we think about some road ditch projects, just get his thoughts on what this county might be able to do, if anything. Just have some general discussion on holding back water
Get rid of it.
and getting rid of it. Yeah. We haven't met for 2 years, so it's time to meet again. What else have I got? The visioning committee has met twice. We're gonna meet again on Wednesday at 4:30. Jody and Colton, you won't be able to be here. Yeah. So the visioning committee has set March 26th, it's a Saturday, to assemble some focus groups at the building over here. Some focus groups in the morning to some elderly people, recreational people, parents of kids. They will have already interviewed some focus groups with elementary kids and some high school and middle school kids. And we're just going to discuss on what these residents, these focus groups want to see in terms of, I guess it's transportation, walkability, transportation in West Branch and all that. It's kind of what would be the focus of discussion. And so that's the visioning committee. We're doing a lot of work.
I say so.
Somebody else says, yeah. Go ahead.
I'll link it to the city website, but participants need to register first. There can only be a maximum of 15 per focus group. So if you're interested in participating on that Saturday, you'll have to register for it.
We can't make it Saturday.
26th.
Yeah. So, and if anybody, if you think of anybody out there that would be a great for the committee, doesn't matter their opinion, you want to have a very varied group and a lot of different.
I might send the link to these guys myself and tell them to send it on to anybody or invite. That's all you gotta do. Or show up, sign up and show up. That's all I have. Anybody, anything else?
I have a question. Are we still using that thing up at the sewer to eat the sludge? Are we still doing that?
No.
We're not doing that, right? Okay.
Baldwin.
I was just curious. I couldn't remember.
Okay, experiment. Guess, won't wait for Colton. Anything else?
Question.
Go ahead.
Did we ever come to the conclusion what we were gonna do with our mural?
Install it.
Yeah, but
somewhere.
we're putting it down in the old Casey's lawn?
Yeah.
Is that where we finalized that?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
just making sure.
Yep. We need to talk about it again.
I don't want to talk about it. I just
I
was
don't want
curious.
to, I don't want to,
Because I know we talked forever whether we're gonna get a parking lot or a thing, so I didn't know.
it's gonna be a thing.
Okay,
I'm gonna knock you out of your chair.
no, that's fine.
It is on Public Works is high priority stuff to do once the snow is done snow, so, yeah.
Motion to adjourn, anyone? You have something? Oh, you can't do that. Motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Uh,